Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday morning to you. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I will tell you, this weekend was absolutely fantastic here in Texas where I live. The weather could not have been any better. Yesterday, Sunday, I basically spent the entire day sitting outside on my front porch. It got to about 80 degrees here, crystal clear blue sky. There was a light breeze, not too windy, but just kept it just cool enough. The humidity was really low. I mean, it was a perfect day. And I maybe the whole day long until nighttime spent maybe an hour uh, inside the house, and it was absolutely great. I couldn't have asked for a better day than yesterday. So I hope that you guys had that experience too. I want to talk to you today about something that is really, really close to my heart, and that is overcoming anger and outrage. I think that anger and outrage are both normal emotions, and when handled correctly, they can actually be productive emotions. It's often out of anger and out of outrage over something that big important changes are made. I think the problem that a lot of people have nowadays, though, is that we don't know when to stop being angry and outraged and channel those emotions into something positive. Not only do we not know when, but we don't know how anymore to do that. We've stopped being able to practically deal with normal, real emotions that everyone has, and we let them spiral out of control until we're not managing our emotions, but our emotions are managing us. And the bad thing about anger and outrage is that when those two emotions begin to manage us, we completely lose control of the rest of our lives. We lose our perspective on the world. We lose control over the actions that we take. And unfortunately, a lot of times that ends up hurting people. So it's important that we know how to channel that anger and outrage. But I'm going to bring it back down to a personal level. So on a personal level, I can relate completely with being angry. You know, anger is something that I have had a problem with a lot in my life. I used to get really angry really easily. And I've managed to overcome that to some extent. But there are some times when I still react in anger to things that probably really shouldn't make me that angry. And it's residual of all of those years of doing that and not knowing how to handle that. But what I learned during my therapy and in my research about anxiety is that anger is often the result of anxiety or fear about something. Anger is often a reactionary emotion that we use because it's easier to handle than fear and anxiety. Anger is a much easier emotion for me to handle personally than is anxiety or fear. I'd much rather deal with my anger than deal with my anxiety because anger is easier to deal with, right? We can project that anger out onto some other person or some other thing and deal with it easier than dealing with anxiety, which is not really projectable. It's internal, and we have to deal with it internally. So when I learned that anger is often a result of anxiety, I started looking at my anger whenever I felt those emotions of anger and outrage. I started looking at those emotions and trying to figure out, is this legitimate anger or is this anger as a result of anxiety? And you know what I found? I found that more often than not, the anger that I felt was actually a result of anxiety or fear about some other situation that I was not able to control. So, what do we do then? What do we do? If anger and outrage are often the result of anxiety and fear, then how do we overcome those things and channel those emotions to be effective and not affected? I'm going to say that one more time. How do we channel those emotions of anger and outrage so that we can be effective and not affected by those emotions? Well, there are a couple of things that we can do to make that easier for us. Now, I've had to put on my reading glasses because I'm going to be reading from some notes. So excuse the glare on the glasses, but if I don't put them on, I can't see my notes. This actually comes from a blog post that I posted a couple of years ago about overcoming anger and becoming more effective and not affected by it. So here's some things that we can do to become more effective and less affected. When you feel angry, ask yourself, is the situation really something that should make me angry? Am I really angry or am I anxious? I just talked about that a minute ago. Is anger useful in this situation? Will it lead to the resolution that I desire? What is the outcome that I desire for this situation? What exactly is it that I want from this? Is this a situation that I can or cannot change? And if it's a situation that I cannot change, wouldn't I be better off just ignoring it and walking away? Did the person or the thing who angered me do it on purpose? If so, was it because of some inner turmoil of their own? Why did they seek to make me angry if they did it on purpose? And finally, if I hope that my anger at someone will hurt them, am I really accomplishing anything? Or will it end up hurting me just as bad? You see, the thing about hurting other people is that it's toxic to us. Talked about toxicity a couple of weeks ago. Hurting other people is toxic to us because in the end, it usually just makes us feel bad. So you need to ask yourself those questions. And then before you react, do these things. Wait 10 seconds to 24 hours before you respond to someone who has hurt or angered you. And yes, I really said 10 seconds to 24 hours. Number two, sleep on it, because oftentimes situations that seemed particularly bad yesterday don't look quite as bad the next morning after a good sleep. Number three, think before you speak or write. Choose your words very carefully and consider their possible ramifications. Number four, use I statements and not you statements. When you talk to someone, say, I felt angry yesterday when we argued about whatever it was. Or sometimes I get frustrated when I feel like I'm not being heard. When we use I statements instead of you statements, we decrease the tension, right? You statements tend to be accusatory and they rarely accomplish anything. You did this to me, that rarely accomplishes anything. And then finally, ask yourself again if you're really angry or if you're just anxious. So those are some things that you can do to help yourself determine whether or not the anger that you feel is genuine anger or whether it's anxiety over something else. I want to close with this thought. I hear people say a lot today, I won't let it go. I can't let it go. Sometimes they say that about big things. Sometimes they say that about little things. But I want to tell you this from my experience. If you don't let it go at some point, it will eat you alive, no matter how big and no matter how important it is. If you can't let it go at some point and you allow yourself to continue on in anger and outrage, it will eat you alive from the inside out, and you will pay the price for it. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope that you are well. I hope that you are safe. I hope that you are healthy and happy. And I hope that you have an awesome day, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye-bye.